Hello everyone, this is the first video in the terminal course. We won't be writing much code or delving into specific concepts. Instead, I will introduce you to the basic terminology, give you some background on the history of the terminal, and show you a few examples. Why do we even have the terminal as an option in a world where we have mice? This wasn't the case before the 1970s. The first mice of personal computers were introduced in 1973 with the Xerox Alto. Mice became more widespread in the 1980s as an increasing number of operating systems adopted graphical user interfaces. Both the Apple Macintosh with its operating system and Microsoft with Windows 1.0 played significant roles in this shift. Even with the popularity of graphical user interfaces, many tasks are still easier to complete using a command line interface. Surely you can delete a file without typing rm in your terminal. However, when it comes to scripting and automation, like renaming 100 files that start with a specific prefix, it might become tedious using a mouse. In some situations, using a mouse isn't even feasible. For instance, when managing remote service, especially in low bandwidth environments or where no GUI is installed, making the CLI the only viable option. Before we move on to terminology, we need to address the concept of a terminal, which is currently displayed on my screen. Back in the day, when there were no displays, you would communicate with the computer through a terminal. A terminal typically comprised a printer, or later a display, a keyboard and a network connection. One might assume that this entire setup was a computer as we understand it today, but it wasn't. All the terminal did was allow users to type in commands, transmit them to the actual computer, which could have been located elsewhere, and then display the returned results. Now that we introduced terms like terminal, command line and command line interface, let's clarify each of them. While these terms are often used interchangeably, they have distinct meanings. A command line is the line in the interface where you type your commands. A command line interface, or CLI, is a method of interacting with a computer program by writing commands to it. If a piece of software can accept text-based commands, it's said to have a command line interface. When it comes to terminal, it is important to know that what I previously mentioned isn't an actual terminal, but a terminal emulator. Essentially, it's an app that provides a terminal-like connection to a shell. The terminal itself does not execute commands. A shell does. We haven't talked about shells, but a shell is a program running inside the terminal that interprets the commands you enter. You interact with the shell using the command line interface, typing commands on the command line. Let's finally take a look at the terminal. When we start a new terminal session, you might see something like ttys 004. TTY in it stands for teletypewriter. Historically, Unix systems were used with physical teletypewriter terminals, as I mentioned before. As computer technology evolved, the physical devices went away, but the name persisted in the software emulation of those terminals. S stands for session and indicates that the terminal is a session terminal. There are other types of terminal devices as well, like those denoted with a P for pseudo-terminals, but we won't talk about them in this course. 004 is just a unique identifier for the terminal session. Every time you open a new terminal window or tab, a new unique session identifier is generated. They are usually sequential, so if you close O terminals and then open one, it might be ttys 001, and the next one you open would be ttys 002, and so on. You might not need to pay close attention to this detail in the beginning, but rather when you are a more advanced user. In this context, it indicates that this isn't the first session. If I get back to the first session I opened, I'll see that it says on console, which means that this particular session is the primary user session. The second line is the actual command line on which you can type commands. For example, if you're curious about all the terminal sessions currently running on your system, you can use the who command in the terminal. It will display all logged-in sessions and you will see those TTY identifiers there. The rectangular box at the end is the cursor, and what stands before the cursor is called the prompt. In Unix-based terminals, like those found in macOS, Linux and other Unix-like systems, the % and the $sign are commonly used prompt symbols representing the shell's readiness to accept commands. Their appearance can give a hint about the context of the shell being used. The $sign is the default prompt sign for those using the bash shell. It also typically indicates that you're operating as a regular, non-root user. The % is the default prompt for the TCSH and ZSH shells. Like the $sign, the % also usually indicates a regular, non-root user. Since I'm using ZSH, I see the % sign. How do I know that I'm using ZSH? I can type in echo $0 and it will show me what my shell is called. If you're operating as the root user, you might see a hash as your prompt instead. This is a visual reminder that you are in a privileged mode and should be cautious, as you have the power to make system-wide, irreversible changes. These symbols are of course customizable. You can modify the prompt to display additional information such as the current directory, Git branch, or other contextual data. We will discuss this along with details about the types of users and the differences between various shells in upcoming videos. That's all for now, thank you for watching and see you next time.